Welcome to the TalentGrow Show, where you can get actionable, results-oriented insight and advice on how to take your leadership, communication, and people skills to the next level and become the kind of leader people want to follow. And now, your host and leadership development strategist, Halelly Azulay.
Hey there, welcome back to the TalentGrow Show. This is episode 50. I can't believe it. Actually, I'm celebrating 2 years in podcasting with this episode. So I thought that to celebrate 2 years and to treat this episode a little differently, I would show you a little bit behind the curtain and have the tables turned on me. In this episode, I'm actually the guest, and my friend and fellow leadership developer and fellow podcaster, Margarita Rosenfeld, came on the show to ask me some of the very questions that I ask my guests in order to help you, the listeners, learn a little bit more about who I am and what I do, instead of just me asking all the questions. Sometimes people do this as like an episode 0 or episode 1. And frankly, I didn't even think about it when I started, but I thought it would be something nice to add to the list of episodes that's available out there so that you can learn a little bit more about your leadership development strategist. So my guest, and actually my interviewer and host, is Margarita Rosenfeld. She is CEO of Insight International, an award-winning leadership development company, and host of her own podcast called Leadership Insights. And Margarita and I have known each other for many years, have collaborated and been friends. So I felt very comfortable to bring her on and have her ask me some questions. So you'll hear about some of the things that really turn me on in my work, where my strengths and special talents are, the things that I just live for in terms of what I do for work, and what I try to bring and why I started this podcast, what my hopes are, all this kind of stuff. So I hope that you find it interesting. I'd love to hear what you thought of it. And let's get it started, shall we? So here we are, Margarita Rosenfeld interviewing me, Halelly Azulay. Hey, Margarita, thank you so much for interviewing me on my own show.
Well, Halelly, it is such an honor of all the people to interview. I love turning the table. I'm such an amazing interviewer and podcaster. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Do you see why I got her?
Well, I would love to begin this episode of your show by asking you about your professional journey, where you are always asking your guests where they started. And all of your guests have been wondering, where have you started? Where has your journey brought you from?
Yeah, I guess I should talk about that. I actually wanted to be a professional dancer. Did you know this?
I did not know this.
Yes, I wanted to be a professional ballroom dancer, and my dad said that was a bad idea. So I listened to him. He's such a smart man, was such a smart man. But oh well, I didn't try it. So I went to college and I didn't have any idea what I wanted to major in, but I'm good with people and I'm good with ideas and I like theories and I like communication. So I started in business school. I was going to go into advertising and marketing. And then I got into business school at University of Maryland, which was an achievement that was hard to get to do. And as soon as I got into business school, I changed my major and I went into communication. And I loved studying that. Then when I finished my bachelor's degree, I went out and started working in advertising and PR and marketing. And after about a year of that, I went back to grad school and got my master's in intercultural and organizational communication. And I also started working as an instructor at the University of Maryland while I was studying there. And this was my beginning of my career because I had to create the curriculum, I had to do all the lectures, I had to do all the grading, and I had to get people to learn. And I loved teaching, but I didn't love the lack of commitment of the undergrad, lower, what were they, freshmen and sophomore who had to be there. Blech. So that wasn't fun. And I also saw the politics of the inside of the academic department from the professor's side, because I thought maybe I would go into academia, and that made me realize I didn't want any of that either. So I went into the corporate world, and I started as a training assistant. And then I kept getting promoted and promoted and promoted until one day I found myself being the manager of the training department in that organization. It was a financial services company that was headquartered in DC, but they had offices throughout the country as well as in 3 locations in Europe. And all of the newcomers, all of the salespeople, all of the leaders, everybody had to come to my training department to learn about the business. And that was an amazing place for me to learn a lot. I learned so much in that time, well, about myself too, but also about the craft of training and development, of workplace learning, of how people actually learn, and of what I love. And I enjoyed helping people learn about foreign exchange and factors that cause currencies to change their value, which was one of the things I was teaching them about, and products and services and proprietary systems. But what I loved the best was helping them communicate better. And then I started the first management training program at that company. And that was like, oh my God, that is me. This is what I want to do. And from there, I just found other positions in other companies that allowed me to do that full time, to help people become better communicators and better leaders within their organizations. And a couple of years later, I decided to take the leap and start my own company. That was over 11 years ago now.
Goodness.
And that's, so TalentGrow was born. And now I help all kinds of companies, financial services, but also in the private sector, in the nonprofit sector, in the public sector, in all kinds of industries. And I help leaders be the kind of leader people actually want to follow.
I know you do that so beautifully. I know you've written books about it. And of course, you help people through your podcast. I have a question for you, because I love the story of how you kind of meandered your way into this career. And I imagine the people that you're working with and helping have maybe a similar challenge, where they may have started at one point and have ended up at another point. They're like, who am I as a leader? And I wonder whether things that you learned on your journey are things that you use now with your clients.
Of course, I think everything you learn, you use. And we're always on a learning journey. We never, ever stop. So even if it seems like a detour, or if it seems like something, you try something and it didn't work out, the lessons are always going to be with you. And there's always something that can convey, and maybe it's a different context, but the lessons can convey. So for example, something that was important to me, and it was a theme, I think, throughout my journey, was that I really seek to work with people who are self-motivated and who are interested in applying what they're learning, and that are not there as hostages or victims being forced to learn something. I felt that when in that initial job at the university, I felt like people they acted like they were victims of and hostages. And I hated that. The last thing I ever want to do is cause someone to do something they don't want to do. Right. And learning has to be self-motivated. You have to have an intrinsic motivation to learn. So one of the challenges, of course, part of my maturation was you will face people that seem like they don't get it or they don't buy into it. And just running away from it is probably not the best thing. So earlier in my career, I just sort of went somewhere else. Whereas now I might stay a little bit longer in the fight, in the sense that they just might not see what's in it for them. And my challenge is to help them make that connection, because once they do, often their motivation is there. It's just making that link between why am I here and what can I gain from it. And once I'm able to help them see that, then they're with me.
I think the problem is that they just hadn't met you up until that point, and they don't know that you're like the brilliant trainer who's going to help them want to learn and want to grow. So how likely are they?
Yeah, well, that's very sweet of you.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your podcast, because having been so busy with all these wonderful clients that you're helping to grow, somehow you decided that you want to find the time to be a podcaster, which firsthand I know how time consuming and challenging it can be. So what inspired you to start this podcast?
Yeah, it really is a labor of love, and it's not something that I do for money or fame or anything. It is really just a way to share with other people and help them grow. But it gives me an excuse to get in front of people that might have not heard of me before and share with more people. So one of my goals in life is to help as many people as possible actualize their potential. I mean, this is sort of my mission. So if I only work with the people that are actually working with me, I'm limited. But if I can reach even more people, and a podcast is a good way to do that, writing a book is a good way to do that, blogging on the internet is a good way to do that. The more people that I can help, the better it is for me. I achieve my mission. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing it. And also, I love talking to my guests, and learning from them. So in many ways, I get just as much out of it as my listeners do, because I'm on a learning journey and sort of like scratching my own itch and talking to these brilliant people about what they know really well and getting them to share their wisdom with me, but in a way that actually it has a multiplier effect because I record it and then I share it with the world. So to me, truly, if I could just learn for a living, if I could figure out the formula for how I could just learn and still feed my kids and, have a house, I would do that because it's my favorite thing to do.
Well, I think what a gift that you are such a dedicated learner, that you are able to share that passion and that joy, both with your live audiences, but also with your podcast listeners. And as one of your loyal podcast listeners, I think it's so wonderful to hear your style and the curiosity that you bring to those interviews, because you could tell from them that you genuinely just are so curious and interested, and that makes all of us want to learn along with you.
Thank you. I am curious.
I'm curious, absolutely. And I have a question for you. I'm always interested with people who do what you do. What have you discovered through podcasting, whether it's about yourself or the craft, that was maybe unexpected to you? Anything surprised you in this last almost, I think, 2 years that you've been doing this?
I genuinely enjoy listening to how other people describe things and then finding connections. And so maybe I should have expected it because it's one of the things that I do naturally, but almost every time I talk to anyone, it connects me in my mind. It connects immediately to like some other interview I did or something else that I just read, it's just like, there's so much synchronicity. I always feel like I'm sticking my finger in the socket, and it just, the hard part for me is to control the time because I have a million different directions I want to take it in, with all the curiosities that arise for me that I have to keep it under control. Halelly, it's a 30-minute podcast.
That's awesome. So let's tie this back into what it is that you do in your day-to-day world. What are you most excited about in the work that you do?
Two things that I go for. One is light bulbs, and I'll explain it. And one is impact and change. So, because they're different, and one does not necessarily beget the other. So I love the light bulb moment when you see awareness forming. My work is not just being in front of people when I speak at conferences or when I facilitate workshops for my clients about different topics related to leadership and communication, but a lot of my work is also behind the scenes in consulting. And when I'm helping an organization formulate an entire leadership development strategy. And when they see the connection between things that they've been noticing but did not connect, when they understand the cause and effect relationship between, there's been people are leaving that are good performers that were happy before and something happened. Why are they leaving? They complain about their manager, or I have managers who used to be the top performers. They were amazing people. Their commitment was completely unquestioned. And now they seem like they're just in the doldrums and suffering or frustrated and becoming even maybe negative or maybe even looking for something else. Like, what happened? And when they realize that a lot of times, organizations, they just shove people into leadership roles when they're not necessarily ready, but then they don't really have any good, reliable ways to support them, to help them bridge the gap. And even to understand what portion of your job now is helping other people understand or supporting other people versus doing your own work, like you were doing excellently before your promotion, and so there's organizations that have been growing so fast and didn't slow down to think about this as their growth expanded the number of employees they have. And then there's layers of reporting, and then there's more managers, and they don't really have any solid way to develop those people. So I'm talking a lot, but like even behind the scenes, when I talk to the leaders of that organization about developing a leadership development strategy, even as a consultant, you see that connection. Or if I'm standing in front of people in a workshop and I'm explaining some kind of a concept and I lead them through an experiential exercise and they make that connection, the light bulb goes off. Love the light bulbs. But light bulbs are not enough, right? So my second favorite thing is getting people to actually help them find specific step-by-step processes or tools or methods, things that come from thought leaders, things that come from people that have done it before them that work, and teaching them how to do it, and then knowing that they're actually implementing and seeing the changes. That's what I live for, because getting light bulbs by itself is not enough if people go back to their business as usual and just do whatever they were doing before, or have obstacles and things in their way and they don't implement what those ahas, those light bulbs, they become dim and eventually they go away. That makes me sad. Sad, Halelly.
That's very hard to achieve, and we don't want to see that happen.
Oh, no.
Halelly, I wonder, are there particular trends that you're seeing with your clients or problems they're coming to you for, so that as listeners are kind of thinking about what's going on in their own organizations, they could be like, wow, we're experiencing that. We should talk to Halelly because she can help us with this.
Yeah, for sure. So many of the organizations that I describe, which are growing really fast, going through exponential growth, they're big enough that they have layers and managers and supervisors and directors, but they're not huge organizations. Like some of the clients that I work with are huge organizations. They don't need my help to set up a leadership development strategy. They've got that. They're doing well. I can help them hone it. I can help them refine it, and I can help their leaders learn specific skills through my workshops. But the organizations that are just they just do their work, right? And they expect their leaders, their managers, to do work, but they don't really guide them specifically or have any kind of a repeatable process or system in place to develop leaders. Okay, we see someone, they have leadership potential. What are we doing to help them enhance that? What are we doing to help them learn the skills to get them ready so that when we need them to jump into a leadership role, they're more prepared than just going blind? Now, someone is in a leadership role. What specifically should they be exposed to, and how should we continue to develop them in an ongoing and predictable way through a variety of interactions and activities and programs and conversations to help make sure that we're never letting them just go cold, and we're never letting them wonder when their next development opportunity will be. There is a way to develop this kind of an approach, a strategy for developing leaders, and an organization that I can help organizations put that into place. So that it might include some workshops, right? But we both know training is not the only way to develop people. It's not the best way to develop certain things, and it's not enough, right? You can't, because people need to do their work. They can't be in training classes all day long. So you can't just, we'll send you to training once a year, and then what happens the rest of the time? So there's so many other ways you can develop people, and if you have a mindful approach to it, then you can map out the whole year, and you can then think, well, people that are new to leadership need different things than people that are in the middle of a leadership journey versus people that are more seasoned. So how are we supporting the development for each of those types of learners?
And you can help them do that. You can help them map it out so that they know how to do this.
Exactly. And then I can help them all the way to designing everything that they need, but I can also just help them create that overarching plan. And then they can, kind of help them figure out how they can do all the detail work on their own.
Great. Thank you. And what do you think is your superpower? What is something that you feel like, I know it's a hard question because it's so hard to talk about this about yourself, but what do you think is something that you're particularly gifted at as a leadership development strategist?
Yeah, that is hard. Yeah, I think that for me, it's a combination of my top strengths. So I appreciate excellence and I seek excellence. And I think that I want to give people excellence, right? Help bring out excellence in people. So that kind of drive towards excellence is something that I bring to all my work. And I have very, very high expectations of myself and everyone else. So I believe that it's possible. I strive for something excellent rather than just good enough. And I'm also very curious. Love learning.
We discovered that about you already. Yeah.
So it means that I'm open to new ideas and I'm always seeing connections. So there's always a freshness that I bring to my ideas, to my consulting, to my workshops that I think help make sure that it's on edge, that it's on the cutting edge, or that that it's not stale, and it's never stale for me. And then critical thinking. So I'm curious, but not everything goes, probably it's somewhere between curiosity and excellence that I'm able to curate my ideas, and I'm able to curate content, and I'm able to curate connections in a way that I try at least to make it as relevant and targeted as possible.
That's awesome. Those are so crucial. I mean, being a colleague, I think that those are just such keys to having that sustainable impact in the organization that I know it's really important to you and certainly to our clients, right?
Yes.
You talked about, always wanting things to be fresh and interesting. And so I'm curious about, what do you feel most energized or passionate about at this moment? Like, what are you exploring? What's a growing edge for you now?
Well, I am talking to a publisher about my third book.
Oh my gosh.
And it's very exciting. And I actually have a contract I just reviewed it in my email. So that is something I'm super, super excited about. And I really look forward to doing more speaking and writing about the topic. And the topic—
Can you tell us what the topic is?
Yeah. So it's about networking without the ick factor, right? So, I mean, the title is, who knows? It'll change a million times probably before it's actually published. But, and I haven't signed the contract yet, so I don't want to jinx it. But it's something that I see a lot of people struggle with. And it's something that I know a lot about because I like to say that I'm a born again networker. Like, I saw the light. I used to hate it too, Because I think that people that are genuine and like to make genuine connections kind of feel like networking seems like a contrived thing, like you force yourself to do it and you connect with people you don't care about and you talk about things that don't interest you, and it all just feels cheesy and fake and gross. And of course, that's not how networking should be. It's how people that don't know how to network do it. But networking is about building meaningful, long-term, mutually beneficial connections with people, like actually making friends with people. So if there's no mutual benefit and you can't see how you can help each other down the road, or you can learn from each other, then don't connect with them. There's plenty of other people, right? Like, you don't force yourself to be friends with people that you don't want to be friends with, if you will. But there's so many techniques I've used, and it's helped me build my business. It's helped me build my leadership skills. It's helped me connect with influencers. It's helped me connect with my clients. It helped me create value for the people that I help when I'm consulting and when I'm teaching, when I'm facilitating. So it's not like the main thing in leadership for sure, but it is an aspect of leadership, and it's an aspect of being a professional that I think I can definitely help from firsthand perspective. Plus all the people that I know, I have lots of people in my network that have amazing stories and specific tips that can help people. So I'm going to use that. Of course, I'm going to have lots and lots of interviews and stories to share in the book. And then of course, maybe podcasts related to it and speaking related to it, maybe an online course related to it. I don't know.
Great. Well, we're excited. We're going to stay tuned. And I'm also excited about you sharing tips. You're always so good with practical ideas. And I know that's how you end your podcasting session. So I'm very sad that we're coming to a completion of this episode. And I can't let you go without asking you, what is one actionable tip that listeners can take to raise your career satisfaction and be better, stronger leaders?
Sneaky woman.
I learned from the best.
Okay, you're fair. That's fair. We should always end with an actionable tip. So I think that people can look at their career trajectory and their journey this far and look for some of the highlights. Like, what were some of the moments you can remember from each of your steps along the journey? And actually try to remember a story or a specific example of something that was joyful or something that was exciting or very fulfilling and rewarding. Because we've all had jobs we didn't like, but there were always things about those jobs that were pleasing, or certain situations that were success stories. And if you can harvest, it's kind of like picking the fruit from the trees along your journey, right? Harvest those stories and those examples. Because like earlier, when you were asking me, were there things that I took from each of those steps along the journey that are useful to me today? Absolutely. But sometimes we might not have that awareness, or maybe we're not mindful enough of those lessons. So I think that there's two things that will come out of this exercise, and it shouldn't take a long time, but maybe go for a walk and think about it, or maybe write down in your journal as you're thinking about it, but just actually list out your jobs and then look for a specific example or story for each one of them of something that was extremely satisfying or exciting or successful. And satisfying doesn't mean easy, right? Sometimes really, really, really hard things you did are the most satisfying, right? Because that creates that sense of accomplishment. And then look for the themes. What are some things that you've already used from those learning points in your current job and that you can use in the future? But what are some of the things that maybe you haven't really harnessed and that you could turn into something that brings you even more satisfaction and more success now, or can bring you insights about what your next step should be?
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Well, it's a wrap on this episode of the TalentGrow show. I was having so much fun interviewing the master, and thank you for this opportunity. And I hope everybody enjoys listening to this just as much as I loved interviewing you, Halelly.
Thank you so much, Margarita. You've been a great and gracious host to me on my show, and I appreciate you playing the game. I look forward to returning the favor on yours.
Great.
Bye. Totally different, right? That was a little bit awkward, but a lot of fun to be on the other side of things. And I hope that you enjoyed it. I'd actually love to hear what you thought and what questions you have. And definitely if I can help you, right? Because there is a lot of passion that I bring to my work in leadership development. And if that's something that I can bring to your company, it would be totally my pleasure. So the TalentGrow show, as you know, is a proud member of the C-Suite radio network of podcasts that are podcasts from the world's leading business podcasters for C-Suite leaders, business executives, and entrepreneurs. And it features premium content from top thought leaders designed to increase knowledge, deepen understanding, and build skills to enhance your personal and professional lives. So check out C-Suite Radio at c-suiteradio.com. c-suiteradio.com. Check out our show notes page at talentgrow.com/podcast/episode 50. And make sure that you download the free tool, 10 mistakes that leaders make and how to avoid them. And also that will put you on the mailing list for my weekly fun, short, and actionable newsletter. I would really enjoy staying in touch with you in that way. As always, you are invited to leave comments in the show notes page comments section. You are very, very encouraged to share this show with others. And if you would, take a couple of minutes of your day, I know you're very busy, and just go over to iTunes and leave me a rating and a 1 or 2 or 3 sentence review. You can do it under a pseudonym, and that really adds so much value because it helps other people who are searching for a show to listen to feel good about trying this show out. And it also actually helps the algorithm on iTunes pull this show into search results more. The more ratings and reviews that I have, the more likely it'll show up in search results. So you would help me so much by doing that. So hopefully you can just take a couple minutes, go over and do that. And if you're right now in the car or running errands or running, then I hope that you'll remember to do that later. And I appreciate you listening. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for sticking around until the end. And until the next time, make today great. I am Halelly Azulay, your leadership development strategist. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the TalentGrow Show, where we help you develop your talent to become the kind of leader that people want to follow. For more information, visit talentgrow.com.